Hello and welcome to The World Today on CGTN. I'm Natalie Wong in Beijing. French President Emmanuel Macron met with his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin in Versailles on Monday. The two leaders discussed the fight against terrorism as well as the Ukrainian and Syrian conflicts. Macron also accused Russian news outlets of being organs of influence and propaganda against him in this year's presidential election. Our correspondent Kay Parkinson has the details.
French President Emmanuel Macron and his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin both keen to present Monday's meeting as the start of a new era for French-Russian relations. Relations between the two countries have been very tense in recent years, particularly over the issues of Ukraine and Syria. Their talks went on for much longer than expected. Macron described them as being a very frank exchange, and during the joint press conference at the end of their meeting, both leaders did indicate that they would be willing and could imagine them working together, particularly on the issue of Syria. Although Macron mentioned the use of chemical weapons in Syria, he said any use of chemical weapons is a red line for France and would trigger an immediate response. A stark reminder that, in fact, France and Russia are still backing opposing sides in that conflict. There were still some rather awkward moments, particularly when the French president decided to lash out against state-backed Russian media during the joint press conference. Let's have a listen to what he had to say.
When press organs spread infamous counter-truths, they're no longer journalists. They're organs of influence. Russia Today and Sputnik have been organs of influence throughout this campaign, and they've repeatedly produced counter-truths about me and my campaign.
Macron's campaign team has repeatedly accused Russian media of trying to smear his presidential campaign. Now, Putin denied that Russia had tried to influence the French presidential election and said that actually election meddling had not come up during their talks. Although following his extraordinary outburst there, it was clear that Emmanuel Macron did have something he needed to get off his chest. Kate Parkinson, CGTN, Paris.
Like what Kate mentioned, the leaders of France and Russia discussed Ukraine at their meeting this week. President Putin appealed for the lifting of sanctions against Russia, while his French counterpart said he hopes both countries can find a way to de-escalate tensions in Ukraine.
You have asked how sanctions against Russia will help in the resolution of the crisis in Ukraine's southeast. They will not. So I appeal to you as well as to the representatives of the French media. You should fight for the lifting of all restrictions in the global economy.
My wish is not to see an escalation. My wish is that, on the contrary, in the framework of the Minsk Agreement, we manage to find solutions and to make sure from both Ukrainian and Russian sides there is a de-escalation.
Relations between Russia and France have been sour since France voted yes on sanctioning Russia for its military action in Crimea in 2014. Russian President Vladimir Putin has been picked as the first foreign leader to meet with his French President Emmanuel Macron after the G7 summit. However, questions remain whether the trip will mend ties between the two countries.
2014, Russia marches into Crimea and the ties with France go south. France supported the EU's resolution to impose sanctions on Russia. Afterwards, France on many different occasions showed its opposition to Russia's involvement in the Syrian conflict. The relationship between Russia and France further deteriorated in October last year, when divergences between the two countries appeared over whether a ceasefire would be carried out in Aleppo, and Putin cancelled his trip to France. During the French presidential election, Russian President Vladimir Putin expressly praised Macron's arch-rival François Fillon as an upright person. Putin also hosted Macron's far-right rival Marine Le Pen at the Kremlin in March. Now some experts from Russia are suggesting the relationship between the two countries does not look promising.
Over in neighboring Germany, Chancellor Angela Merkel on Monday said it was right not to gloss over differences with the U.S. on climate change during last weekend's G7 summit. She reiterated that Europeans should decide their own destiny.
We are and will stay convinced transatlanticists, but we also know that we Europeans really have to take our destiny into our own hands. That we Europeans have our destiny in our own hands, and that we do this together for Europe and for our values and interests.
Merkel added the G7 summit made it clear that implementing the 2015 Paris Climate Accord will be difficult. She warned that whoever puts national blinkers on and doesn't look at the world around them is, I'm convinced, going the wrong way, unquote. The German Chancellor made the remarks at a conference on sustainable development in Berlin, which came one day after she openly questioned whether Europe and Germany can still rely on the US and the UK as allies. Following Merkel's remarks, British Prime Minister Theresa May says she wants to maintain a strong partnership with the European Union over security and trade. May said it is right for the rest of the bloc to look out for its own future, but made it clear that Britain wants to remain a key partner. May, who called a snap poll for June the 8th, reiterated on Monday her call for voters to give her a strong mandate. She warned of the dangers of results that gives no party a majority. May also said she is ready to walk away from Brexit negotiations without a deal if the agreement isn't good enough. Take a listen to this.
We will be there to negotiate the right deal, but what I have said is no deal is better than a bad deal. We have to be prepared to walk out.
So you are prepared to walk away from the European Union with no deal?
No deal is better than a bad deal.
Jeremy Corbyn, in 11 days...
However, the leader of Britain's main opposition, Labour Party, Jeremy Corbyn, set out a different approach during the same TV show with May. When asked whether he would contemplate a scenario where Britain failed to strike an arrangement with the rest of the bloc, Corbyn said there's going to be a deal. Britons will elect a new government in less than 2 weeks. Now, polls show May's Conservatives are seeing their lead narrow over the opposition Labour Party. You're watching The World Today on CGTN. We'll be back. Welcome back to The World Today. Chinese Premier Li Keqiang will kick off an official visit to Germany and Belgium from Wednesday through Friday. While in Germany, Li will meet with German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier and have an annual meeting with German Chancellor Angela Merkel. Li and Merkel will also attend a China-Germany Innovation Forum. While in Belgium, the Chinese Premier will attend the 19th China-EU Leaders Meeting, which is scheduled for the first 2 days of June in Brussels. Other activities in the Belgian capital include a China-EU Business Summit, a China-EU Dialogue on Innovation Cooperation, and activities marking the China-EU Year of Tourism. Li will also meet with Belgium's King Philippe and hold talks with Prime Minister Charles Michel. Li and Michel will attend a new car exhibition and witness the signing of a series of documents on bilateral cooperation. Premier Li's visit to Germany will take place as China becomes Germany's largest trading partner. The two countries are expected to deepen trade cooperation in various areas. For more on the upcoming visit, we spoke to our correspondent Guy Henderson in Berlin. Take a listen.
Chinese Premier Li Keqiang arrives in Berlin at approximately 5:30 p.m. local time on Wednesday, 15:30 GMT. He arrives here just after the departure of Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who will have been giving German CEOs the hard sell on why German companies should be investing in India. So 2 key meetings inside a week, which perhaps gives you an indication of German priorities at the moment. These are meetings that come off the back of what appeared to have been a rather awkward meeting of G7 leaders in Italy, in which many of the leaders there disagreed quite strongly with US President Donald Trump on a number of issues, including, of course, trade. And off the back of that meeting, German Chancellor Angela Merkel then told an audience back here in Germany that in her view, Europe could no longer rely on the United States and the United Kingdom as it once had. The UK, of course, voting last year to leave the European Union. And there does seem now to be this new momentum in Berlin to try and build trade ties with some other countries, such as, of course, India and such as China. Now, prevalent in these discussions, we expect will be China's One Belt, One Road initiative, this idea of a massive development corridor linking Asia and Europe. Specifically, we expect discussions to further conversations that took place here back in April during a visit by the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi around the complaint made by many German companies that they are not allowed to, or not given even access and fair access to the Chinese market. Now, China is Germany's largest trading partner, but it's not just going to be trade that's the focus of these discussions, because there will also be a meeting between German and Chinese cabinet ministers in a number of different policy areas. Guy Henderson, CGTN, Berlin.
Chinese State Councillor Yang Jiechi is on a 3-day visit to Japan for the 4th round of high-level political talks between the two nations. The dialogue is being held in Tokyo and is co-chaired by Yang and Japan's National Security Advisor Shotaro Yashi. Yang said political trust should be the foundation of healthy and stable relationship between the neighbors. He said Beijing would welcome Tokyo's participation in the Belt and Road Initiative. The Chinese diplomat also called on Japanese officials to be honest about the country's history and issues surrounding the Taiwan region.